Max Verstappen, 1 point away from a potential race ban. Should he get this race ban, there are a few likely drivers in the Red Bull stable that could potentially take that seat next to Yuki Tsunoda. You've got the likes of Isaac Hadjar, lights out at the moment. Liam Lawson, he's already got the experience. Then you've got Ayumi Iwasa, I hope I didn't kill his name. And then the F2 young gun, Arvid Lindblad, which Red Bull are reportedly already seeking a dispensation for. Man, the Red Bull circus still in
Yeah,
full effect.
continues, right? The penalty points, how they work is it's over a rolling 12-month period. And we know that if Max picks up one more over these next two races, which is Canada followed by Austria, he will receive that ban. Me being completely selfish and wanting to see an absolute roadshow and sit back with some popcorn and see how this one plays out, I want to see Max Verstappen pick up a ban. On the flip side, obviously, I want to see him, you know, fighting for this title, because if he does pick up that ban, it's probably highly likely that's the end of his world championship dream for 2025. Although still possible, of course. They have these four drivers there that Red Bull can call on, and there's been some really outlandish rumors about Daniel Ricciardo, which I think is completely left field. And for those Danny Rick fans, I really don't think that's going to happen. Look, it's a tough choice because obviously there's so many hypotheticals, but there's also a lot of ways Red Bull can look at this. But regardless, I think Lindblad will be the driver out of Iwasa and himself to actually pick up the seat there somewhere. Obviously, if he gets granted that dispensation from the FIA to race.
Look, I'm a bit like you. I love Max and I want to see him in the fight, but I also want him to get that race ban because I want to see what Red Bull do, man. This could potentially be a look into the future of Red Bull if he gets the ban. Lindblad, they've already asked for dispensation before Max picked up these penalty points, right? And we've already discussed it. We think Yuki's under mass pressure, and if he doesn't perform, he could be out by the summer break, right? And maybe, possibly, Red Bull have the same sort of thinking, so that's why they're seeking the dispensation. Yeah, I agree with you. I think either Lawson or Hadjar are the likely to replace Max if he gets that ban. And then Lindblad gets a weekend where he can get himself comfortable, get himself familiar, and how the weekend works as a Formula One driver. No sort of real pressure.
But before we go into the real in depth of who we think deserves that seat, because we both have opinions about this. Everyone's got opinions about it, of course. But what do you think the chances are of Max picking up a point over the next one or two races?
This weekend, I think we might see a bit more reserved Max because I think they really want him there for Austria, right?
Yeah, the
Red
home
Bull's
race.
home race. Max has got a massive following there. You want your top gun at your home race. You've got to be in a shot with winning your home race, and if he's not there, then there's not much chance. I mean, it could happen, but there's not much chance that Yuki and whoever the replacement could be would be good enough to get the win on that weekend. Max will probably be put on a bit of a short leash.
Can you imagine Max being put on a short leash?
Well, would Max be like? Would he
Prepared
allow
be
to be
on,
put on
yeah.
a short leash? Right.
Yeah.
Like the thing is, once that visor comes down, the red mist comes over, and in the heat of the moment, I mean, you can see what he does. Like you see what he does in the heat of the moment. Like
He will know that Australia is really important. I think, it aligns with what you're saying. It would be a massive blow for Red Bull not to have Max Verstappen at their home race. Hey, look, this is all just hypothetical speaking. He may not even pick up this ban, but should it happen? Yeah, if he missed Austria, that's a big, big red flag for Red Bull. And also, look, let's delve into this, the whole Horner thing. The reports coming out that now the Thai side has come in and, it doesn't look as clear that the Thai side is 100% backing Horner anymore. So can you imagine Max gets a penalty, home race comes along and then Max is not there, you think about the pressure that then gets heaped onto Horner. That's another story to talk about. I'm sure rumors will pop up at some point. Mistakes can often be made when a driver is told to hold back. It's like, when they're in the zone and they're going balls to the wall or whatever it may be, they're in that zone. You take them out of that zone, quite often we do see drivers then start making those uncharacteristic mistakes.
It's a tough one for Max. Yeah. Making sure he gets through Canada cleanly and then gets to Austria. And then, look, Max is already in the mindset that the championship's gone. So he gets to Austria, and we saw what happened between him and Lando last year.
Yeah.
It could
Austria throws up those races, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Historically.
And then, yeah, I agree with you. The whole Christian Horner thing adds a completely another layer. And this is why we're saying we kind of want to, as much as we don't want Max to get a race ban, we want him to get the race ban because we want to see what Red Bull would do, right? And then exactly right, the pressure would be on who they put in that seat, because apparently now Christian doesn't get to have a say on driver contracts or anything.
That was the main thing about the rumor, was it was taking away Christian's power of that he's the only guy that makes that decision or signs the driver. The rumor was that they're going to take that away. So it's funny that pops up now as the rumor over the last few days, when now there's that potential one race ban coming in for Max.
Yeah.
Because who's going to make that decision? So,
well, you would imagine Helmut Marko would be the man in that decision. And then you look at pass remarks on both Lawson and Hadjar. You know what I mean? Could he just turn around and go, Lindblad, here you go, man. Have a crack.
You are now Christian Horner, or maybe you're not Christian Horner because you don't get that. You don't have the power to do that anymore, but you are the power broker at Red Bull. You are the decision maker for the driver. Max gets his ban, and let's say Lindblad gets a clearance. Lindblad is good to go. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going Lawson takes a step up for the one race to fill in for Max. One, he's got the experience within the team. You leave Hadjar where he is. I don't think you need to look at Hadjar because one race could be probably detrimental to how he's viewed by the big team. So I think you leave him where he is because he's lights out at the moment. He's just killing it. He's doing such a good job. And I think you just let him find his feet, continue to find his feet and do what he's doing. So you put Lawson up, then you give Lindblad the weekend and go, here you go, dude. Check it out. See what it's all about. No pressure. Just don't crash the car and do your best. Imagine, right? Lindblad comes in. Lawson beats Yuki, right? Over in that one race over the weekend. Then Lindblad comes in, scores a measly 1 point. Mate, then we go back to exactly what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Yuki Tsunoda, arrivederci, sayonara. Thanks for coming.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, if there is a replacement at Red Bull, it puts so much more pressure on Yuki because we already know he's under a lot of pressure. And then now you're having either Hadjar or Lawson coming in, and then it's almost like a direct 1-for-1, right? That's crazy. I mean, look, I totally agree with you. I think, look, if it's purely on performance at this point, you go with Hadjar. But in saying that, the familiarity that Lawson has with the team, he's done the preseason testing, he's had the 2 races at the start of the year. You get him in there because I think with Hadjar, don't upset the apple cart. He is performing excellent. He doesn't need the added pressure, the added spotlight, all the extra media attention based around just one race. Let's just say he gets that shot, he has a bad race. It just puts even more pressure on the kid. Let him be. He's doing the job. There's so much potential there for Red Bull to nurture that talent. Lindblad, I agree. You just get him in there. And I think he is the future of Red Bull. It makes no sense to put Iwasa in there. He's not the future of Red Bull. I think it's just more with the Honda tie-up there. And you just, like, I agree. You just give the kid, look, mate, we see you as the future. I think he's going to be there for 2026, whether it's even in the top team, possibly, most likely at VCARB. Get that experience, get that first race out of the way, monkey off the back, just do what you need to do. Don't worry if it's an absolute failure. There's no pressure on you. And that's the way I would probably look at it. Now, for Liam, it's also a great opportunity because it's like, okay, Liam, let's jab at that mental toughness. This is a one race opportunity for you. Your job is essentially to out-qualify and out-race Yuki. And then on the flip side for Yuki, it's like, well, mate, like if Liam comes in, and even though it's just a one race, but if he outperforms you, you've been in this car now for around 8 races now. It's not a good look. And it's a very interesting point of the season. We're coming up into that mid-season break, and we know silly things and the rumor mill starts, and the teams are going to look at their drivers and they'll make changes based on what they've seen. So it's absolute cinema, this part. Like, if, again, I want Max to be fighting in the championship, but if he gets this one race ban, fireworks.
But again, it's all riding on the back of Max getting the one race ban.
Yeah.
So if Lindblad doesn't get the dispensation, then
it has to be Iwasa. There's really no other way around it. Does Red Bull have any other connections to any of the reserve drivers on the grid? I'm not sure. I don't think there is. It really doesn't make sense for them to, because, they have obviously VCARB. That's the only way they can go, really, is Iwasa. And then he gets a shot, and he's already had a little bit of experience with I think he's done a free practice session already this year in VCARB. So he's a natural fit. Like you mentioned, Red Bull have been pushing for this clearance for Lindblad for a while now. So based on that, you have to think they're looking at him as the future. There's no other reason why they'll do this. Some people might go, well, Lindblad's still young, give Iwasa, he's got a little bit of experience, he's the reserve driver, but it's a great opportunity for Red Bull just to blood him in for one race, no pressure, back to F2 after that.
It's a good look into how Red Bull are thinking, right? If they put Lindblad in the VCARB and then promote one of the VCARB drivers up, then you would say either Yuki's going to go or Max is going to take a year off, which we think is a high possibility as well. So then you would go, okay, so then it's either going to be between Lawson or Hadjar to step up and Lindblad in the VCARB for 2026. So this is why we kind of want Max to get the race ban, right? It gives us a look into how they're thinking for the future.
Well, I would say, when you're thinking of the future from that point of view, who steps in next year to that Red Bull seat? I still think Red Bull is probably primed for Hadjar at this point. But then, so on that, you kind of think, oh, well, surely you'd give Hadjar that one race in Red Bull. It's, again, there's so many hypotheticals. It's so interesting to see how they're going to align with this because, again, it's so many ways to do it.
Have like a mini shootout. You've seen what Lawson can do. Okay, yes, it's one race, but let's see what Hadjar does. I think they've possibly made a decision on Yuki already. We're just not going to say. Unless Yuki can come out and turn things around, get within 2/10 of Max, and then is just scoring, banging out the points every weekend. Yeah. Then you'd go, okay, well, maybe we give him another shot at the start of 2026.
Yuki needs a massive turnaround. Like, he needs these next 2 race weekends. How many more races until we got summer break? 4, I believe, until Hungary?
I think so, yeah.
He needs to really, like, these next couple of races are, I think, they're career-defining.
Yeah.
And that career-defining to the point of, I believe, whether he gets demoted mid-season or whether he is able to survive to the end of the season and still potentially have a career, probably not at Red Bull next year, but at least maybe another team picks him up. Because if he can't close that gap and show like a progression over these next few races, or at least until the end of the season, I just think this essentially puts a guillotine on his F1 career. Because I can't see any other team out there, unless there's, obviously a Honda-backed team that they can bring the financial side to it. It just seems like a dead end. So how they play this one out, again, Max may not even pick up this ban, and then just everything we've just said is basically null and void. But regardless, it's interesting. Lindblad, they see clearly as the future.
Yep. Well, in Formula One, time will tell. But we'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you put them in the comments. And until the next one, we'll catch you later.
Catch ya.